At my father-in-law's funeral, his lawyer handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter explaining why I'd been removed from the family trust. They called me an outsider. That was their first mistake. Their second? I'm a certified public accountant who'd been doing their taxes for 5 years. My name is Patricia Holloway. I'm 52 years old. And for 23 years, I was married to Robert Holloway Jr., heir to Holloway Manufacturing, a family business worth $340 million. I met Robert in 1998 at a community college where I was finishing my accounting degree at night while working full-time at H&R Block. He was there teaching a guest lecture for the business department. I was 30 years old, divorced, raising a 6-year-old daughter alone. He was 35, never married, and according to his mother, too picky. We dated for 2 years. His family tolerated me. Barely. I wasn't from their world. I grew up in a trailer park in rural Pennsylvania. My father worked at a feed mill. My mother cleaned houses. I put myself through community college one class at a time while waitressing and raising Emma. Robert's mother, Judith Holloway, made her feelings clear at our engagement dinner. Well, she said, sipping her wine, at least you're older. Less likely to be after his money for the wrong reasons. I smiled. Didn't respond. I'd learned early that women like Judith don't want conversation. They want submission. We married in 2001. Small ceremony. His family attended but didn't participate. No one from his side stood up for us. Emma was my maid of honor at age 9. But Robert loved me. He defended me. He built a life with me that had nothing to do with his family's money. We lived modestly, a nice house in the suburbs, 2 cars, normal vacations. He worked at the family company but drew a salary like any other executive. We didn't touch his trust fund. I continued working. Got my CPA license in 2003. Built a small practice doing taxes and bookkeeping for local businesses. In 2007, Robert's father, Robert Holloway Sr., asked me for help. Patricia, you're good with numbers. Our family accountant is retiring. Would you consider taking over? I'd pay you fairly. It would keep things in the family. I should have said no. But I wanted to help. Wanted to prove I wasn't the gold digger Judith thought I was. So I said yes. For 15 years, I managed the Holloway family finances. Personal taxes for Robert Sr. and Judith. Corporate taxes for Holloway Manufacturing. Trust distributions for Robert and his 2 sisters. Estate planning. Investment tracking. Everything. I found discrepancies immediately. Robert Sr. had been hiding money. Offshore accounts. Shell companies. Cash transactions that never appeared on tax returns. I brought it to him privately. Mr. Holloway, I found some irregularities. We need to address these before the IRS does. He looked at the documents I'd prepared. His face went pale. How much trouble am I in? Potentially? Criminal charges. Definitely penalties and interest going back 10 years. We're talking millions. He sat down heavily. Can you fix it? I can file amended returns. Claim errors and omissions. Pay the back taxes with penalties. The IRS might accept it without prosecution if we're proactive. Do it. Whatever it costs. Just keep this quiet. I spent 6 months cleaning up his mess. Filed amended returns going back a decade. Paid $4.7 million in back taxes, penalties, and interest. Used money from the offshore accounts to cover it. Robert Sr. was grateful. Emotional, even. Patricia, you saved me. Saved this family. I won't forget this. I thought that meant something. It didn't. In 2019, Robert Sr. updated his will. He didn't tell me. Didn't tell Robert. Just did it quietly with a new lawyer from Philadelphia. He died in March 2022. Heart attack. Sudden. The funeral was large. The whole county showed up. Robert Sr. had been a pillar of the community. Generous donor. Respected businessman. I sat in the front row with Robert and our daughter Emma, now 29 and a nurse. Judith sat on Robert's other side, stone-faced, gripping her purse. After the service, the family lawyer, the new one I'd never met, asked the immediate family to stay. He read the will. Robert and his sisters each received equal shares of Holloway Manufacturing. Standard. Expected. Then came the personal bequests. To my beloved wife Judith, I leave our home, all personal property, and the sum of $5 million from my personal accounts. Judith nodded. Satisfied. To my son Robert Jr., I leave my vintage car collection and my personal investment portfolio, valued at approximately $12 million. Robert squeezed my hand. To my daughters Catherine and Margaret, I leave equal shares of my art collection and real estate holdings, valued at approximately $10 million each. The sisters smiled. And to my daughter-in-law Patricia, I looked up. The lawyer's expression was uncomfortable. To my daughter-in-law Patricia, I leave nothing from my estate. Furthermore, she is to be excluded from all family trust distributions, effective immediately. The room went silent. I felt Robert stiffen beside me. What? Robert's voice was sharp. That can't be right. I'm afraid it is. Your father included a letter explaining his reasoning. Would you like me to read it? Yes, Judith said. Read it. The lawyer opened an envelope. To my family, he began. I have made the difficult decision to exclude Patricia from my will and from future trust benefits. This is not personal, but practical. Patricia was not born into this family. She does not understand our values or our legacy. I have provided generously for my son Robert, and he may choose to share his inheritance with his wife as he sees fit. But I will not tie my family's wealth to someone who came from nothing and contributes nothing to our name. This is my final decision, made with a clear mind and firm conviction. Robert Sr. I couldn't breathe. 23 years of marriage. 15 years of managing their finances. Saving Robert Sr. from prison. Nothing. Robert stood up. This is bullshit. Dad would never. Your father updated this will 6 months before he died, the lawyer said calmly. He was of sound mind. I have the medical evaluations to prove it. This will is ironclad. I stood. Walked out. Behind me, I heard Robert shouting. Heard Judith's cold voice. Your father knew what he was doing, Robert. Don't make a scene. I sat in my car in the parking lot and cried for 20 minutes. Then I stopped crying. And I started thinking. I went home. Made coffee. Opened my laptop. I'd been managing the Holloway finances for 15 years. I had copies of everything. Tax returns. Bank statements. Investment records. The offshore accounts. The shell companies. The amended returns I'd filed to save Robert Sr. from prosecution. I opened the files. I started reading. And I found it. In 2018, Robert Sr. had established a new offshore account in the Cayman Islands. He'd funded it with $8 million transferred from Holloway Manufacturing's operating accounts, listed as consulting fees, paid to a shell company he controlled. I'd seen the transaction at the time. He'd told me it was a legitimate business expense. Deferred compensation for services rendered. I'd believed him. But now, looking closer, I saw the truth. The shell company didn't exist. The address was a mail drop. The consulting services were fiction. Robert Sr. had embezzled $8 million from his own company, a company that was partially owned by shareholders outside the family. That was a crime. And I had documentation of all of it. I called a lawyer. Not a family lawyer. A criminal defense attorney who specialized in white-collar crime. His name was Marcus Chen. Harvard Law. 20 years prosecuting financial crimes for the DOJ before going into private practice. I told him everything. He listened. Took notes. Ms. Holloway, what you're describing is embezzlement, tax fraud, and possibly wire fraud. If your father-in-law were alive, he'd be facing serious federal charges. But he's not alive. So what happens to the money? The estate would be liable. If this money was obtained illegally, it would need to be returned to Holloway Manufacturing and its shareholders. The estate could face civil penalties. And if I report this, you'd be doing the right thing. But Ms. Holloway, I have to ask, why are you coming to me with this now? I told him about the will. About being excluded. About the letter. He was quiet for a moment. So this is about revenge. This is about justice. Robert Sr. committed crimes. He used me to cover them up. Then he cut me out of his will and called me worthless. I'm not letting that stand. Marcus smiled. I think we can work together. The first step was notifying the board of Holloway Manufacturing. The company was privately held but had minority shareholders, executives and early investors who owned about 30% of the company. The Holloway family controlled the other 70%. Marcus drafted a letter outlining the evidence of embezzlement. He included copies of the bank transfers, the shell company documents, and the tax returns showing the fraudulent deductions. He sent it to the board chairman, a man named Harold Dennison who'd worked with Robert Sr. for 40 years. Harold called me 2 days later. Patricia, what the hell is this? It's the truth, Harold. Robert Sr. stole $8 million from the company. I have proof. Why are you doing this? The man is dead. The man cut me out of his will and called me worthless after I spent 15 years protecting him. I'm done protecting him. Silence. Then, if this is true, the board will have to act. We'll need to hire forensic accountants. Launch an investigation. This could destroy the company's reputation. That's not my problem, Harold. My problem was being erased from a family I served for 23 years. Your problem is that your former CEO was a criminal. I hung up. The investigation took 4 months. The board hired a big accounting firm from Pittsburgh. They went through everything, confirmed every detail I'd provided. In August 2022, they released their findings. Robert Sr. had embezzled $8.3 million over 5 years. Used shell companies to hide it. Filed false tax returns to cover it up. The board demanded the estate return the money, with interest. Judith hired lawyers. Fought it. Claimed the statute of limitations had expired. Claimed I'd fabricated evidence. But I hadn't. The evidence was rock solid. I'd prepared it myself. In November 2022, the estate settled. $8.3 million returned to Holloway Manufacturing, plus $2.1 million in interest and penalties. That money came out of the estate's liquid assets, the same assets that had been distributed to Judith and the children. They had to give it back. Judith's $5 million? Reduced to $1.8 million after her share of the repayment. Robert's $12 million? Reduced to $8.4 million. The sisters' $10 million each? Reduced to $7.2 million each. Suddenly, the estate that had excluded me was worth $10.4 million less. But I wasn't done. In December 2022, I filed a lawsuit against the estate. The claim, unjust enrichment and fraudulent inducement. My argument was simple. I had provided 15 years of accounting services to the Holloway family under the reasonable expectation that I would be treated as a family member and included in estate planning. Robert Sr. had induced me to cover up his crimes by promising me I was part of the family. Then he excluded me from his will while enriching himself with stolen money. Marcus argued that I was entitled to compensation for my services. Services that had saved Robert Sr. from criminal prosecution and saved the family millions in penalties. Judith's lawyers called it frivolous. The judge didn't. In March 2023, the court ruled in my favor. I was awarded $2.5 million in compensation for services rendered, plus $400,000 in legal fees. The estate had to pay it. By the time everything was settled, the Holloway estate had been reduced from $42 million to $29.1 million. Judith was furious. She blamed me for destroying her husband's legacy. Robert's sisters stopped speaking to me. But Robert stood by me. You were right, he said. My father was wrong. What he did to you was cruel. What he did to the company was criminal. I'm glad you exposed it. We're still married. Stronger than ever, actually. And that $2.5 million I was awarded? I donated half of it to a scholarship fund for first-generation college students from low-income backgrounds. The other half, I invested. Because here's what Judith never understood. I didn't need their money. I never did. I needed their respect. And when they wouldn't give it to me, I took it. Epilogue. 2 years after the settlement, Judith died. Stroke. Her will left everything to her 2 daughters. Robert got nothing. She blamed him for allowing me to destroy the family. Robert didn't care. I have everything that matters, he told me. I have you. I have Emma. I have my integrity. My mother can keep her grudges. Emma, my daughter, graduated from nursing school debt-free thanks to the scholarship fund I created. Holloway Manufacturing is still operating. Stronger, actually, with better oversight and ethical leadership. And me? I'm still a CPA. Still working. Still helping people navigate the complicated world of taxes and finance. But now, when clients ask me for advice, I tell them something I learned the hard way. Keep records. Know your worth. And never, ever let someone erase you from your own story. Because that's what Judith and Robert Sr. tried to do. They tried to make me disappear. Instead, I made sure everyone remembered exactly who I was. The woman who saved them. And then held them accountable.
If you like this story, do subscribe and like and do comment to let us know what type of stories you like to hear so that we can make up those. You can also share your own stories if you want them get uploaded along with your pick.